Hey, welcome everybody to the Scuttlebutt Live, where we're just going to sit here and talk about whatever comes to Yogi's mind.
That's
I
scary.
love that intro. So
First of
today
all,
we're gonna be
how
talking
late were
about
you, Yogi?
tacos. Huh?
Yeah.
How late were you, Yogi?
Late to this world, age
No.
1,983 years. Is that a good answer?
No,
No.
that wasn't my question. How late were you
Uh,
this morning? When were we supposed to start?
I
Hey,
have
he
no
looks
idea or
fabulous,
recollection
okay?
what you're talking
He
about.
needed extra time to
So
get
he
his
spent that
hair
13 minutes
pristine.
that he was late coiffing his hair? Is that what
Quaffing.
you're trying to tell me?
So I was finishing my fresh haircut,
Okay.
brushing my beard, and getting this beautiful mane of hair to be what it is.
You lost that watch once you left the military, like what, four
Yes,
months
I
ago?
turned it in with the rest of my tools.
Mm, okay.
So let's look at it like this, right? He's a college student now. Okay. He's got a lot of learning on his plate. And when he made room for learning, he forgot how to be on time.
Well, no, no, no. See, I am embracing the college atmosphere the same way that I embrace the military to the best of my abilities.
So does that mean
And as a college student, it is unwise to be on time. Therefore, I am embracing the community.
okay, so does that mean that you wear pajamas to class? Because that's kind of what I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
I'm
everybody,
just I'm just asking.
you got to be careful with the pajamas that I could wear. I just try to, keep it classy though.
So
It's
you just wear
classy.
your overalls then.
Of
Your
course.
your Luigi,
Of
Mario
course.
Luigi. Okay. So Yogi, where were you? Or where are you
So
besides in your
currently I am in Sacramento, California. We are here because yesterday, March 4th, was March in March, which is where the SSCCC, which is Student Senate of California Community Colleges, comes once a year to advocate for laws and or for bills that affect the college experience. This entire week is actually dedicated for advocacy in Sacramento. Throughout, the universities and the state universities also go there this week in order to have advocacy. I was able to not only meet a lot of representatives, state representatives, both Democratic and Republican, but I was also able to advocate for our veteran community. Uh, there's going back to the whole embracing the college experience, right? One of the biggest things that I realized was that even though we have made leaps and bounds to what the veteran should and has, all our benefits and the advocacy, we still have a long way to go, right? With that, one of the things is kind of not all colleges are the same way and provide these services the same way across the board, right? Here in California, there's veteran service centers, but not every college has it, right? And then also with that, the money that is being given federally and state to these colleges and universities is spent very differently per campus, right? So with that, we're requesting to have transparency and for us as veterans to have a say so on how that money gets spent, right? Um, it's beautiful to have a very beautiful celebration for Veterans Day, but I think it would be more useful to have training, and also to have advocacy and also to have mental health all the way across all of the campuses. Yes, the VA has that, but it also would be easier and better to have it within the campus system. And not just that, but also to have the staff. at each campus be receptive to what a veteran and how a veteran should be treated.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, a lot of the work that we do within the Orange County Veterans and Military Families Collaborative, we have Tom Boskamp, who's with Coastline College, and he runs all of Coastline's VRCs, and he does a great job with creating a culture that veteran, like bringing that veteran culture into the VRCs, creating events that are like on a revolving basis at a very nice cadence, at least once a month, but I would say even more than that, and even doing things that would include veterans with families. So having a family centered event so that they don't even have to find a babysitter, right? And a lot of times there's food, right? Which is even better because they're probably on a budget as well. Also, Cal State Fullerton has a really great VRC here within Orange County. And they've created the same kind of environment. But I would say, not every school, not every college, community college, university, they don't have that same experience for veterans. And that's great that you're trying to create that. But also, are you trying to create something within a culture in a university or a community college that doesn't exist?
Yes, which is the beautiful thing about the SSCCC Student Center for California Community Colleges is that it advocates all the way across the state, right? We created the Veteran Caucus, which allows every community college to be able to be interwoven into a massive network, right? And that way we are able to both learn from the community colleges across, and but also, which to me is more important, be able to create that network, right?
Mhm.
And then we're also tying into Student Veterans of America and other organizations, including Pi Theta Kappa, which is the honor society, right? And a lot of veteran students are doing the extra work, right?
Mhm.
That they do for their classes so that I can learn them and things like that. But they don't ask for the honors contract, right? Or if they do ask for the honors contract, they have no idea the other opportunities or the networks that are available to them. So that we're creating this thing, we're bringing it not just to the campus, but also all the way across. Miramar, for example, here in or in San Diego, it's a really good active veteran club and VRC. However, and they don't fully integrate a lot of different things, right? And then, unfortunately, San Diego City College, which is where I'm going, their veteran club has been dormant for a few years, right? And the veteran caucus for the state of California had been dormant for 4 or 5 years, right? So it was a matter of getting it. We're in the process right now of reactivating it. Well, it's already reactivated, right? And we were able to write 8 resolutions that fully impact the veteran community, and they will be taken by all the delegates of the community colleges April 4th, and see which ones get accepted or which ones don't, right? One of them is the Gold Star families
Mhm.
here in California do not and are not recognized to have priority enrollment, right? They
Mhm.
fall under the veteran programs. However, they're not veterans, so they kind of just go into their own pocket, right? And a lot of the times, because they're not priority enrollment, they're not able to sign up for the classes that they need. Therefore, they don't get the amount of classes that are required to maintain the status,
Mhm.
right? And then that makes their education a lot longer. So that is one of the things that we're fighting for, to be able to give them um, that umbrella of protection, essentially, to get them into that, which already exists for the veterans and their family members.
So would that not just be for their children, but also their spouses, so all dependents, or?
So we're first working with this to give that into the priority enrollment, and then from there move forward into the next steps, right?
So, I have a feeling that, your existing, VRCs that have someone that's, connected and working, but some of the colleges and the universities that don't have a VRC space, I feel like that's where, you're able to do kind of a cultural competency training, to help go in and talk to, the different, officials, administrative officials, um, to help them better understand how they can not just identify the veterans on campus, but actually engage with them, and help them actually build a stronger community, and which will and that like benefit them in the long run, because they're going to be able to get more, veterans and their families to want to go to that, college or university. So, is that when you talked about training earlier? Is that what you were referring to?
That's part of it, yes. To be able to have that meaningful interaction with the veteran. The One of my professors, her name is Nicole Vargas. She actually changed my trajectory for my first semester. I was able to attend her classes, and but it was I met her in that two week window when you can drop classes and change classes, right? So I was able to shift my classes, um, which gave me a massive one boost of confidence. Two, it gave me the ability and flexibility to fully adapt and integrate into the college system, right? Um, the I think one of the unfortunate events, right, is that we come in my case, right? I joined college August 19th. I didn't separate from the Navy until September 29th, right? Didn't have my retirement until October 16th. So most of the semester, I was still part of the Navy in one way, shape, or form. And then, as we already know, VA appointments, they come, you have to be there. You have all these things that are just so inconsistent, and you're not really able to have too much flexibility, right, with other classes. So with all of, mention all of this because I was able, because of this professor, right, Nicole Vargas and Chris Acevedo, um, both amazing professors that gave me the ability to have and do my work, right, attend at the time that I could, when I could, and then move forward from there, right? I think that is something that every veteran needs, especially as they're transitioning out, to be able to have that buffer, right? And why do we start school right after we finish? Well, because we know that we're going to have financial issues, right? In that gap, my personal story, right? My VA, and I got out retirement and also the medical retirement, right? Um, and it should have been a very smooth process, seamless. Well, that seamless process didn't become seamless until February, which is last month, right? So October, November, December, January, 4 months, right, of inconsistent, well, some of them zero pay, right? Um, Others that were inconsistent, and I was being proactive and staying on top and talking the to the representatives that needed to do something about it, right? But even then, it's like, well, we gotta wait for DFAS to do the audit. Then we gotta wait for the VA to do your financial audit. Uh, and then with all of those things, it still became a massive hassle, right? I was lucky because I have all of you guys in this network that I have been inadvertently been working uh, for the last 2.5 years, right? That I didn't know that I was gonna need to keep my sanity, right? Um, Most of us veterans, we just get out and we don't have this, and then we go from whatever position we were at, we face all of these adversities, and we're completely alone. We have no one, right? Or no resources. I've burned through most of my savings, actually. Uh, and it's it's unfortunate, right? Because that should not be the case, right? I mean, I planned for my retirement since I joined the Navy. And even then, there was so many things that I could not plan for, right? Now, if you have a sailor who joined and then they are not able to finish their contract within a year or two, and then now they're being separated, they don't even have time to plan, right? Or someone that is planning to do in the 20 years and they don't make it for whatever reason, now they're struggling, right? And they're on this fight or flight mode that they're not able to really bounce back, and it affects their grades, it affects their community, it affects everything. And then, yes, college is an answer, but it's not always the answer for everyone and what they're facing, right? I mean, I have met and I meet every single day so many veterans that even though they joined and did their GI Bill and everything, and they're homeless, right? And they're afraid of talking to anybody, right? Because they know that they're not going to get the support, right? Well, there's programs like the HUD Bash, right? Uh, that can help with housing insecurities, but that takes time.
Well, but in order to be considered for HUD bash, you need to be chronically homeless for a
Yes.
year.
See,
So that's wrong.
and that's just
That's wrong.
pushing that problem even further.
Yeah.
It's making it to where you have to be in distress to be able to use um, programs like that, and that's what really has, I mean, infuriated me in so many different ways. Because you want a veteran to be in crisis before they can start seeking help, and which just really sucks. And I know that they're trying to avoid abuses and drawdowns on those programs, but they make it kind of hard for veterans to shield themselves from going into those situations. And I, I I agree with Yogi. Like these veteran resource centers inside of colleges are super important. They essentially help college students process their GI Bill stuff effectively. They point them in the right resources. They guide them. uh, they're a place where veterans can sit down together and share resources and stories and stuff like that. I think the VRCs are super important. What Yogi's got going on down there, where he's going into the community colleges and influencing them to create these VRCs, and uh, just really getting the whole entire veteran caucus on board with this. It's going to be really influential and help a lot of veterans.
Yeah. Chris, do you go into your VRC since you're a new college student?
Oh yeah, I actually, so I would say about 80% of the time, every day that I have class, I make sure I go check in to the VRC. I make sure I log in. I make sure that they get the credit because they need to show usage. I think at a very minimum, veterans, when you go to your college campus, please build 15 minutes in to go sign into your local VRC, because you can really help um, keep these resources alive. And like Yogi said, they started dying, and mostly they started dying because of COVID and the separation that a lot of students felt during that period. Now they're coming back to life because now people are like, hey, COVID is a thing of the past, so we could continue moving on.
And then, sometimes it's not even about, you know, is just showing up in and out, right? At least for us, that's what we do. We just, for me, I go in every time that on the campus. I go in, at least have them put my ID in and move out. You know what I mean? And move forward. That way, they're able to, just like you mentioned, show you stability, right? And move that consistency forward. The more veterans that check in, the more that the funds are justified, the more that they can apply for different grants and different things that allow for that kind of access. Um, so it really is important, but it's also important to see things from everybody's different perspective, right? Megan, you talked about the HUD bash and requiring a year of chronic homelessness, right? And I know that part of that is, well, if you're staying at somebody's house, crashing on the house,
You're not
on
considered
their
homeless.
couch, you're not considered homeless,
Yeah, you're
right?
couch surfing, so you technically have somewhere to live,
Correct.
but you have quote unquote housing. It may not be stable housing. Um, so I mean, yesterday, um, like homeless or unhoused, however you want to refer to it, right? So one was I was tagged into an email about a veteran that was served a 3-day notice because something happened with his GI Bill. He wasn't able to pay rent for 3 months. And so he had, X amount billed, to come. So we have to use, sometimes we can use the SSVF funds. Sometimes there are different things. So the person that reached out to me and a few other people, where I was automatically like, you need to fill out this form, you need to do that. But I said that I'm not quite sure you're going to be able to get the funds in time. But if you're able to be proactive and show that you've connected, that maybe they are approving you, and that the funds will be distributed directly to the landlord, which most of the time they are. Um, a lot of times that can forego that. But I'm sure this veteran knew that he was 3 months behind on rent or 2 months behind on rent. So I don't know which college he went to. He didn't tell me, and I didn't ask because a lot of times I don't like to ask questions because it tends to, I mean, I ask questions, but it's, you're here for help. Let me connect you to the resources. Once you see that I'm here to assist you and I'm not trying to have you repeat your story, who you've probably repeated your story to enough people at this point that me asking you again just frustrates you that much more. So let me just give you the resources that you need, and then let's have a conversation so that way you feel more comfortable with me assisting you. And let me show you that I'm here to help you and not just give you somewhere else to go fill out another form at, right? I feel like that is a very important thing. And even I was meeting with an elected official yesterday morning, and they shared a story of their sibling that was separated from the military. This was like maybe over 15 years ago, so a lot has changed in that time. um, but they didn't ask for help, and they were sleeping in their truck. So this is a very common thing, and it's really sad that this is what's happening to the men and women that have served our country, and they don't deserve that.
And to your point, Megan, I mean, it's, unfortunately, we are in a bureaucratic system, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately and fortunately. Uh, but we have to be comfortable with that part of the being uncomfortable, right? We're gonna need to fill out forms. We're gonna need to be proactive. We're gonna need to do a lot of things that we makes us uncomfortable, right? Y'all know, right? Part of my transition, and as I just mentioned previously, I mean, they have left me um financially unstable for a while, right?
Mhm.
And what, because I was afraid of being homeless, what did I do? So technically, I am homeless right now. Uh, just living in an RV by choice, right? Because I knew that there was going to be a lot of instability when it came to my transition, I chose to get out of base housing as soon as possible, have something, even if I was going to be parking in the middle of the streets, but I was going to have all my stuff with me, and it was going to be something bigger than a car that I could actually sleep in. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Not recommending that for everybody, because that's, um, I'm just, I guess, a different style of human, but there's there's a lot of, you can see the writing on the wall a lot of the times, right? The minute that you start seeing the writing on the wall, it's better to ask for help, right? And I feel a little bit of a hypocrite right now, because I myself, with all of these resources, with everyone that I know, I was ashamed to ask for help, right? And it wasn't until, I really felt like I was drowning and there was no way for me to get out of it, that I, you know, things that I had to save for my entire life, right? My TSP, I had to make a withdrawal, right? Um, Nothing that I wanted to ever do, right? But it was better to do it this way now than for it to continue going forward, right? But at least I had that forethought when I was, this 18-year-old that joined the military, and that saved as much as I could in my TSP to have that extra cushion. Not that I ever wanted to touch it, but I had to touch it. You know what I mean? Um, so what am I trying to voice out is, even though organizations are there to help, they require you to go in there, show your face, ask the right questions. And if you don't know what the right questions are, just ask a whole bunch of questions until one of them gets answered. Fill out whatever forms, and then say, if you cannot help me right now, is there someone else that I can? Right? Should I go to somebody else?
Mhm.
And just like, every time that you go to a doctor, right? You they already have your chart, right? They should be able to be spending time reading your chart before they address you. But what is the reality of those things? The doctors are overmanned or undermanned, uh, overworked, so they don't really have the time always to see those things, right? So be patient, be proactive. You're there to advocate for yourself, right? If it takes you going there 20 times, unfortunately, go 21 times, right? Re-ask it, redo it. It's part of the system that we're in, that we have to do it that way. And just like you said, Megan, it does become extremely frustrating. Trust me, I think part of the little chunk here that I pulled out of frustration, that's why I don't have the hair. Just kidding.
Mhm.
But it is part of how the system works, right? So we have to be able and be willing to be patient, to let the system have time and do its job, right? Um, Another example, right now the VA canceled on me my dental, right? Um, 4 times. Am I gonna yell at the poor receptionist that's calling me and saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to change you to a different doctor or something else"? It's not their fault. They're just the face, unfortunately. I have to be patient with them, just as they're being patient with me.
Yeah, yeah. Navigating the medical process with the VA after you get out. Um, for me, I'm really fortunate because I have three insurances. I have TRICARE, um, because I'm retired. I have my wife's insurance because it costs $25 through her work, and then I have the VA. And it was hard navigating what steps to take to make sure I get into the VA. And I finally was able to get my community care set up because a lot of people don't know that you could get community care. And that I honestly, I'm so thankful for community care because my doctor that sees me for my personal stuff is also my VA provider as well. So that means that they don't have to communicate with multiple people in order to help resolve some of my stuff. And I know navigating through that can be a real pain. I haven't had to deal with the dental stuff, but I'm pretty sure I need to go start taking care of that. And the VA, they do the best with what they have. And I know a lot of people are upset at some of the things that have been done inside the VA. But I do think that there has been some massive changes. I mean, shoot, they just recently processed a bunch of VA claims in the last year. They've processed more VA claims than they've ever processed before. So there are some real positive changes coming within the VA. But I know navigating through that system is not it's not an easy process. It really isn't. Shoot, even I mean, how many veterans don't even submit their claims because they don't know how to do it, or they have these predatory organizations that put a bad taste in their mouth because they're like, "Hey, I want $30,000 to file your VA claim." That's insane, you know.
I am gonna add to that. One of the good slash unknown things that is happening right now is, with the changes that are coming, that we don't know how is gonna affect the future of the VA, right? Um, there's so many changes, so many rules, so many things that are happening right now that we'll only be able to see what the outcomes is. I know that some of the veterans that have been working at the VA, a lot of them have been fired. A lot of them have been, investigated because of the DEI in their practices and whether or not they apply or not, or those things. So now we're becoming a system that was already stressed. We're stressing it even more, right? Hopefully, it's for the better, right? I'm hoping that these changes allow for better growth and is just able to maintain the system, right? Um, so we'll see. We'll see how this pans out. I am going to tell you that here in California, the state representatives are extremely um, pro helping our veteran community, which is not something I was expecting, honestly, coming from everywhere else that I've been stationed at. I expected to, hear this whole California is always all these things. And it is a blessing to see that they do care about us here, right? Not just the veterans, the military community, we're extremely respected. The way that they talk to us, the way that they listen to us, right? The way that they want to address our problems, it is beautiful. Um, the representatives, their staff, you walk into the room and you have a conversation with them, and then they find out that you're a veteran. They're like, "Oh my God, why didn't you just lead with that?" I was like, I don't want to lead with that. That's not Yogi. That's part of my history, but that's not who I am, right? It's just really beautiful to see. Um, and as Chris is gonna mention a little bit more, and it's gonna expand on it, about Secretary Doug talking about the veterans not cutting any veterans benefits, which is amazing, right? And the state of California is, standing to doing the same so far. It's very beautiful to see and hear that reassurance.
Yeah. So, like you said, I have Doug Collins. We're going to try sharing the screen real quick and see how good my skills are. Right. All right. So let's go like this. Entire screen. Okay. We'll share. Oh. Oh. Let's go like this. I don't know why that shrunk. There we go. You guys can see it.
It's Doug again. I can't believe it. I've been here about a week. And you know the one thing that hadn't changed about DC? It's the media up here that like to tell you stuff that they want you to believe. I'm going to give you a breakdown. This is how it happens in the media up here. They take a possibility and then they run with a story because they want you to believe it because they got to write something. And then frankly, they don't know what to write because right now President Trump is making progress and this administration is doing what it said, making promises and keeping them. But let me tell you one that's right now. There's a one that's going around the media right now about veterans benefits being cut. I'm the Secretary of VA. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not happening. They can do hypotheticals all they want. I'm telling you about reality. Reality is veterans benefits aren't getting cut. In fact, we're actually giving and improving services in our Veteran Benefits Administration. They're actually clearing cases quicker. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. There's also this rumor out there that Doge is out there, is this infamous thing that's going to take personal information and do that. I'm telling you what, we've got Doge representatives here that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that is looking at our contracts, making sure that we have the best run facility for efficiency to make sure who? The veteran gets the care they need. I'm happy to partner with them to find things that we need to get rid of so that we can put the money where it belongs. You know where that is? Back with our veteran. President Trump's hit the ground running. We've hit the ground running. And like I'm saying, if you want to come for the real truth, come to see me.
So, yeah, I think that let me figure out how to stop screen sharing. Yeah, there we go, guys. So I think that he brings up some really good points. I think there's a lot of. I'm not going to tell you not to trust the media, but I'm going to tell you to take a gigantic grain of salt. I mean, like a salt rock. You might even need a salt cave. Really look at what's going on. If you see a news article, go check the press release that they created that news article from, because there's a lot of facts that are being thrown out there that aren't actually facts. So you hear it here. This was a 2-week-old video, by the way, and you could follow the VA Secretary Doug just by going to the VA, and they have some really good information on there. But also realize that it's a government, and anybody that's worked for the government, we know how the government operates. They're only going to present one image, which I understand why, but we could talk about this all day long. Things that just don't flow correctly, and hopefully this is a good sign. That's all I want to say about that.
But I like to, share that hopefully, going to the horse's mouth, it's getting that information from them. It prevents misinformation, which I think that's what you're trying to get at, Chris. That everybody paints their own, and that was something that Secretary Doug was talking about, right? It's misinformation affects more and creates panic than what it should be, right? Um, and we want to advocate, we want to be together, right? We are now on a era where, thanks to all of the Vietnam vets that have advocated for us, we are in an era where veterans are appreciated, right? We're no longer
Yes.
walking down the streets, and for the most part, because there's still some exceptions, we're not being called baby killers or being spat on and things like that. Does that still happen? Yes.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, there's more respect. The VA is actually helping us more. There's more pros than there are cons. So, it's continuing to maintain that advocacy and continuing to maintain our involvement in our own care. So it is reassuring to hear from the secretary that we are able to move forward into a better path that allows us to stay together and stay informed.
Well, I think what we're all talking about is there's the evolution, right, Yogi, to touch on what you're talking about. So the evolution of how, we as a society view and treat veterans, right? It's not like how it was during World War I or World War II, if we're talking about kind of like modern era, right? but it's definitely not like what it was during Vietnam, or even, I guess not necessarily Korea, but more Vietnam era, right? And then it's just kind of, I think 9/11 kind of really helped us. I mean, it didn't help us, but it did like a reset, like helping understand like those that serve our country. They're here to protect and serve, kind of getting back to like the roots of that, and really brought us together as a country. And I think we've kind of built off that message. And I think that we saw how during past wars, how the veteran transition was a lot different, and how we really needed to come alongside them and help them. We've made a like huge progress, but we can always do better. I mean, you are someone who is experiencing it right now, and there are ways for us to improve that. And if you think about Doge, right, or other kind of entities kind of like that, where it's trying to improve processes, streamline processes, help things. So hopefully they're not just looking at contracts. Hopefully they're also looking at how we can improve processes to help veterans receive their benefits more quickly. And that we're trying to cut that red tape. So I think kind of looking at it from kind of all aspects. And then also, Chris, to your point about the media, it's like, where are they getting their sources from? And then is this someone that really is more, they spin things? So it's really more their opinion, and it's not necessarily facts. I think that that's a huge thing that we see today. It's an opinion piece, and they're basing it off a press release. So it's like, be careful what you're reading and who you're taking that at. Like, look at the context of it, right? If you want to believe because you're on one side of the political aisle or another side of the political aisle, and if that resonates with you, great, right? Because typically when you're on those sides, you're not seeing the full picture. And if that's the case, we're never going to change it. So I'm not even going to try. But I think if you come in a mindset of having that open mind and kind of looking and researching, doing your own thing, which today we're also busy. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have that time or even care. I mean, that's another piece. Do you even care to want to learn more? Or do you want to just feed into that and just say, oh yeah, I'm just going to feed into that. I'm going to take that as, the gospel, so to speak.
Yeah, and there's actually new things that were introduced recently that are going to really benefit some veterans. I'm not sure if you guys listened recently, but HR 1656, is that on my end? Do you guys hear our feedback? You do? You hear our feedback?
Oh, no feedback, at least not from my side.
Oh, I heard it.
That's strange. Also,
I think you're just hearing the voices inside of your head.
Yeah, probably. So HR 1656, it's called the Plus Act, and it's allowing veteran accredited agents and attorneys to pretty much charge a fee, but it's going to go after the predatory organizations that are charging $30,000 for you to get your veterans benefits. It's pretty much going to go after those predatory, but also give you more options. Then there was also the HR 1732, the Guard Act. It pretty much reiterates, hey, there's going to be jail time for these predatory companies that are charging unauthorized fees for helping you out with your VA assistance. But it opens up a debate. If a veteran wants to hire one of those organizations, should they be able to hire them? Because we all know going through the VA process is not an easy process to get your benefits. And that's why Yogi and I target service members that are transitioning to reiterate BDD, benefits before discharge. That's the major route that you need to do. But there's a lot of veterans that have not been able to get their benefits that served, even in the last 10 years, there's a ton of veterans that I'm running into that just never filed a claim, even if it's a 0% claim, just so that way they're on the VA's books. So that way, if there's ever a incident that happens in the future, they could start seeking help and get help from the VA for, an injury or a condition that's caused by their service. And everybody swore an oath to our country. Everybody that joined the military raised their right hand and swore an oath to the country, but they fail to hold the country for their oath to the individual service member. And that's what these laws they're doing. They're trying to protect veterans while also opening up access for veterans to get their VA claims filed.
To your point, Chris, I think one of the biggest issues that we're facing when it comes to the perception, right, of these organizations that get you to a different rating or help you get there, it comes down to information, right? And sometimes it's not the organization that got you to where you're at, and it shouldn't be. It's what actually happened to you, right? Your service connection. I think one of the biggest issues and misinformation, um why people want to hire a lawyer, is because they see results, right? Why do they see results? Is because you are actually devoting time to learn how to communicate your problem, how to look at your medical record. Because at the end of the day, these lawyers, these other organizations, they're not going to talk to the doctor. You're going to talk to the doctor anyways, right? The only thing that you're doing is you're advocating for yourself with the right terminology and the right information to go forward, right? Um, one of the or a lot of the uh, problems that I see here with the veterans that are going through college and or the veterans here in San Diego, that they want to reach out to these organizations, is, well, I am tired of fighting, or I don't want to fight with this. I don't care. It's money that I don't have anyways, and they're gonna take it away from that. So I'd rather do it than move forward, right? Um, and it creates this vicious cycle of allowing someone else to maintain your autonomy instead of really advocating for yourself, right? And then it becomes a bigger problem in life. So it is a very difficult conversation to be had, but I think it's a conversation that needs to be had more open to shed more light and create more transparency of what the processes really are for these organizations.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at if you're hiring someone to help you with that process and you're not going through like a VSO, right? Because that's what a VSO is supposed to be for. Um, you understand that there's a cost associated to it. If this legislation is trying to, you know, deter, I think it's supposed to deter people, predatory people, get rid of those people, right? So that the intentions I think are good, but to your point, if you're going to be adding an additional fee, where is that fee going to go? At the end of the day, it's going to hit the veteran. So, is there a way that that fee could be waived at some point if that particular organization actually fulfills all of its obligations to the veteran? I think that that's something that should be um, put in place to, like, hey, if you're able to expedite the process and help this veteran versus it taking a year and 6 months, and you were able to accomplish everything that the veteran need, well, then you are considered a credible organization, although you're for profit. right? So I think putting in other language or whatever to put that in place, I think would really help this and the intention behind the predatory organizations.
In resume, I want to say it is again controversial with you with what you're saying, Chris. But I think it's a really good topic of conversation to go forward.
Yeah, sorry, I was.
There is feedback coming now. I can hear it.
Can you hear me at all?
We can hear you, but it was like
Like, what about even right now? You could hear the
No,
audio.
it's good.
Okay, it's good now. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry about that, guys. Yeah, can you rephrase that question, Yogi? Sorry.
There was no question. I was just stating that it's a really good conversation to be had, right?
Yeah,
In order to be able to move forward, I think VSOs are the best way to go forward, right? That is something that I will recommend. Not only is
yes,
that not taking anything away from the veteran, but they are actually informed specifically with what the veteran is going forward with, right? All these other lawyers and people that you're hiring, they're just giving you best practices, but they're not able to see your record. They're not able to talk about specifically what it is about that's going through you, right? I
yeah,
think one of the biggest misnomers for the veteran community is that before going through the process is that um, we are not able to advocate for everyone across the board the same way because everyone's case is extremely unique to the veteran themselves, right? Whatever the veteran faced, whatever happened to the veteran themselves, every single one of us that served has a different story, has different medical conditions, has different everything. So there's no a cookie cutter fit for everyone, right? Um, and that's again, that's why I truth in reporting, I believe in that, right?
hmm,
Truth in what and how your case is being handled. So be careful and do the best with what you can with what you got, right?
yeah. And like you said, everybody's story is going to be different, and that's why I think it's super important to hear other people's stories because it can give you, that that insight on maybe their story could help me out. Our situations may be different. For example, depending on what state you're in. Um, like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, my veteran taxes on my house. Like I have a very minimal amount that I pay for taxes. Well, that could be like in Texas. Texas is totally different than Washington State, where you have to be a certain um, amount every year. So and it changes by location by location. And that's why I think also when we get out as veterans, I think it's really important to understand uh, your environment that you're going to be moving into, understand those rules and regulations that could help you or could hamper you.
All great topics today that we were able to talk about.
Yeah. One thing that we I think we really need to hammer on is we had a guest scheduled for today, um, but he advocated for himself. He had a family emergency happen, and instead of doing what we're all taught to do, pushing through it through the military, because when you're a cog in the wheel, you have to keep moving so that way the machine could keep moving. He took the time to take a knee and focus on the things that are actually truly important to him, which is what us veterans need to get better at, and that's advocating for what matters the most for us. So I applaud him for taking a knee, for taking that time. and focusing on what actually matters to him.
Yeah, one of the things that when I spoke with him, I said, I'm proud of you for advocating for yourself and that you recognized that this wasn't going to help you, this was going to hurt you more. And you are going through a healing, grieving process. And that's not something to take lightly. And I like to use the analogy of the oxygen mask with the airplane. They tell you to put it on yourself first before you start helping other people. You can't help someone else if you can't help yourself first. And what's funny is, Chris, you mentioned something in a post this morning, and I had no idea, but that's always my analogy. Like for us in this space, when we're trying to help other people, or just being a human being, and wanting just to be there for other people that we love, right? If you don't take care of yourself, you can't help anyone else.
Exactly. Exactly. I think you nailed it on there. And I just find it funny because we were talking before the show, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, oxygen mask." I'm like, "Were you reading my post?"
Like, no, what post? But your post was like, so it was on a different topic though, wasn't it?
So it was about, I think us as a country, we need to put our oxygen mask on. We have some things that are going on right now that are very turbulent, and the oxygen mask came down. So it's time to start taking care of us, so that way we get back to doing what we're really good at. And the American uh, the American people probably don't realize this, but America is the sheriff of the world. We've been the sheriff of the world for a very long time, for over 100 years. And right now, we got to kind of make some adjustments. And I know there's a lot of talk on this, and there's a lot of turmoil. But I I encourage you, when you read a newspaper and it makes you mad, look at look up where that newspaper is coming from. Look up the press release that person did, and realize that it's okay to have opinions that are different from your neighbors. Because when we come together at the table and we start realizing how we want to interact with each other, because we have to learn America, it's not,
Listen.
yeah, America, we need to listen. We need to sit down together and get back to that mentality that, uh, look, Yogi, I have a different point of view than you, but I love you. Megan, have a different point of view than you, but I love you.
Mhm.
Here's the thing: we are all Americans. We want to grow America. And by growing America, we need to bring other people in. That's what's so great about America. We are the melting pot. And then, my service to this country um, is kind of one of the things that made me into the man I am today. And that's because I was influenced by different people from different cultures. It's so important. That's our superpower.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think um, hitting the reset button, both, personally, figuratively, each administration hits the reset button every time the new one comes in. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just change, right? So it's okay to hit reset. Because when you reset, you're in a position to refocus and focus on what is truly important and how are you going to move forward. What's your action plan? What are the next steps going to be? What do you need to do for yourself, right? So yeah.
One thing that I want to do is I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Julie Adams. She's actually the director of the Student Center for California Community Colleges. She is also a veteran and a huge advocate for us. Um, and not just that, but also a great mentor. And then now, something else that I want to share that I'm really excited for. I will be shortly meeting with Assembly Member Lori Deves and Assembly Member Jeff Gonzalez, who are part of the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee for the state of California. So I'm really excited about what they're doing, how they're doing, and how we're able to make our community better, more resilient, but most of all, more united, right? Everybody misses the camaraderie, the sense of ownership, the community that we have built. Um, One more thing, this Friday, Arturo Garcia, which is part of the um, Veterans Beer Club here in San Diego, California, we he has a presentation for a whole bunch of psychologists and professionals, and we were able to collaborate with him and his organization to share the perspective of the veterans, the spouses, and their family members on how the transition happens, what is the truth, right? Not just from a clinical perspective, but from a veteran going through the transition reintegration and how it can be difficult and what are the things that we really truly face. So it's going to be a great presentation. We're working on the video that we're going to be able to share, and then hopefully we're able to bring Arturo here to talk about what and how it went down. He wanted to join us today, um, but the he's working on things to make this conference happen. So he'll be joining us one soon to talk about it.
Sounds amazing. Can't wait to hear a recap and then have him on the show.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that's out here that's supporting us. Um, we're going to do a huge shout out to the Human Works Foundation. Megan and her team has been super helpful, and this joint venture of Scuttlebutt and Mildevet and Human Works is just awesome. So we are so thankful for everything Human Works has done for us. Please take a look at Human Works down in Orange County. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you have something that they could help you out with, they're awesome.
Thanks, you guys. And thank you to Carol and Ethan and Cody, who have been helping us get out the word about Mill Tibet, the resources, so that you all can find your tribe and find those resources to get you connected and not be alone, because you're not alone. You have to ask for help. And the only way you can ask for help is knowing what's out there. So being able to find platforms, spaces like Miltivet, like a VRC, like your VSO, right? Find, or the beer, the beer club, right? These different spaces is where you can connect and learn about different resources that will help you.
It was really inspirational, but we're gonna have you do it one more time with your mic on, Yogi.
No. So I was waiting for you to call me out. And the computer froze. But anyways,
Me?
no. So something that I do want to mention out is that the First and Goal project golf event is coming up. Maybe around, it's gonna be right before our next Scuttlebutt. Um, but it's gonna be amazing. We're gonna have some footage that we're gonna share with us and see what are the organizations that are coming. Also, Buddy Rushing, he's a great advocate into what and how to help our community, both serving in the military and the veterans and first responders, to be able to create stability before they come into any financial crisis. And he's not he's gonna sell you a product or anything like that. Him and his family did this, are doing it, and are doing it from the bottom of their hearts to try to help our community be more successful. So with that, any last words, Megan?
No, love you guys. Love this space, and just so happy to be here and to help support what y'all are doing. So, and thank you to all the veterans out there who have served our country. It can't be said enough. And thank you for those who are military connected that also serve alongside those who have served our country.
Yes, thank you guys. You guys take care. Remember, it's your transition. Take charge of it.
Yes. Bye.
Scuttlebutt out.